Spider-Man Brand New Day was incredible. Let's talk about it. This is going to be a spoiler-free review. If you want my thoughts with spoilers, stay tuned for that video coming later. And as the reviews have said, as everyone has been saying, I really love this movie. Now I will say, do I think the movie was entirely perfect with zero flaws? No. If I had to rank this movie out of 10, I would say it was a 9 out of 10. But this is also coming from someone who is not a big fan of superhero movies. In fact, Spider-Man is really the only superhero I'm keeping up with. However, I do want to note that after watching this movie, I am doing a full binge of like all of the Avengers films. This has gotten me back into it. Like now I'm really excited, especially for Doomsday, which was not a thing for me before. Like I have never been this excited about Marvel. This has really picked up my interest in superheroes, so I'm gonna say that. But before watching this movie, I was not a big like superhero person, but this, you know what I mean? I think you get what I'm saying here, and I think a lot of people can also relate to that with Spider-Man being like the superhero that they actually actively keep up with as opposed to keeping up with like most Marvel productions, especially with this being a massive box office premiere. I think even bigger than Endgame. Crazy. Overall, I really love this film. Part of why I like this movie so much is that it like, I don't know how to say this, it just made sense. Like, everything that happened made sense. I, like a lot of other people, had the concern that like, okay, no shade to Tom Holland, that's the GOAT, but, you know, this is year 10 of making Spider-Man movies, and yet, within the first 2 minutes, it's like, okay, well, that makes sense. Like, it clicked together so cohesively. Truly, there was not any drag on anything. Like, everything that was happening made complete sense given the universe, given everything that was happening within the film, which I think sometimes is a little bit hard to do. It's a little bit hard to balance how everything moves together and how it all works together to create the entire piece. But with this film, it all just flowed cohesively. Everything made sense. It made sense why, like, yes, he did look older, but like it fits completely into the story. The way that he acts with Ned and MJ, perfect. I think one thing that I also really liked about this movie was that it was more of like an introspective look into Peter's character specifically. There was a lot of emphasis on him. I feel like in some of the other films, this is no shade to them, but there was more of like a emphasis on his relationship with other characters, which yes, this one did have a lot of elements of that like conflict, but also mostly it was focused on his own internal conflict and his like relationship in the way that he thinks about himself. I think another big thumbs up for this movie was that they did switch out some like common members of the main cast while still mentioning them, while still having focus on them. Makes the dynamic that Peter has with other characters and not be stale. Like, that's one of the reasons why it works so well, is that since the dynamic switches, it's not stale, it's not like, okay, I've seen this before, it's completely different in a way that is very refreshing, even with new characters. It really works. Don't get me wrong, I love so to the next guy, but the person that kind of replaced that role in this movie, it works. So without spoiling anything that happens in the movie itself, I'm just gonna say it was a really good film. I think it does make sense with where it picks up from after all of the events that happened in the previous film, and maybe I'm just glazing it because I just went and saw it and I haven't seen it again. I am going to go see the movie again, but if you want my thoughts with spoilers, make sure you stay tuned for that. I'm going to be making a video about those thoughts soon, and if you want to see some of my criticisms about it, because again, I do think this movie was really good, but I do think there are some things you can critique. I'm going to make a more in-depth video about that. As of right now, the one that I'll say was the most prevalent to me was that it was just like predictable. There were just some things where like when it was on screen, I just kind of immediately went, okay, this is exactly how it's going to play out. And then it played out exactly like that, which I don't think was a bad thing. I think it was still entertaining. But in terms of like complexity, listen, you'll see. If you want to see my criticisms on it, stay tuned for that video. And yeah, overall, I love this film. Go watch it, and I'll see you in the next one.